Good morning. Some very accomplished people here, and it's my privilege to be here. Thank you, Economic Times, to invite me as a keynote speaker. And this is a wonderful, I think, first large CIO conclave of ET. So my congratulations to you. One of my colleagues here shared with me what a fantastic beginning it was yesterday. And I happened to speak to the Naval Commodore this morning on some very interesting views he presented on technology. I'm going to make an attempt to share with you what's my point of view on what could be the digital objectives of any organization and what's one of the ways to achieve it. There are multiple ways. So there's one of the ways which I'm going to share, which has worked for us so far. And the video which was playing in the morning, just now, before I came up here, multiple of the colleagues sitting here, I think, defined what is digital meaning to them and what is the digital usefulness to organizations. I think the one line I want to add to that video which you heard or the clippings which you noticed, that if you are not using digital to create new products, then perhaps you can't call your organization a digital organization. Food for thought. With that, let's begin. So the topic I have chosen in consultation with the Economic Times is to share with you digital objectives and APIs as a way to achieve some of those digital objectives. So let's first talk about what could be a digital objectives from a banking and financial services perspective, and my view is they're going to be applicable to almost every company. So to be in business and to be a going concern, your first objective ideally should be to have a customer. So if you don't have customer, we have nothing. And the digital objective also has to focus on the same objective, that get a customer first. And when you overlay it with the digital technologies, which are mobility, cloud, social, analytics, you can make that experience of acquiring a customer a lot more frictionless. It could be simply as meaningful and as simple as doing a KYC or onboarding of a customer with an e-sign or doing a KYC with an Aadhaar. Some of you may be familiar with very well publicized DigiBank of DBS. I don't know if anybody from DBS is here. But essentially that DigiBank of DBS is built on one single API of the country, which is Aadhaar KYC. There's nothing else in that. Okay? So it could be as simple to acquire a customer, make an appointment in coffee shop on a self-service. And there are a whole lot of other things which I've mentioned there, especially when it comes to borrowing part, relevant more to BFSI, whether NBFCs or organized sector or commercial banks. There are ways to bring experience using these digital technologies, specifically analytics at the time of acquiring customer. So include them in your objectives is the limited point here. Now you have the customer. What should be your next objective? To delight the customer, right? And why delight the customer? So that the customer is sticky with you. Customer uses more and more of your products. Customer enjoys being associated with you, with your brand. So what are the ways to delight the customer? I think one of the best ways, again talking from a BFSI perspective, in your manufacturing industry, in your telecom industry, there could be corresponding different ways. One of the ways to delight the customer is to offer two things: convenience and control. And the third, see if I add choice. For example, it's going to be repetition for a lot of people who were there at the HP Conclave in Goa very recently. So bear with me. Many of you, where do you live? Some of you living right now in your WhatsApp or inside your email. That's where you live, right? So if that's where you live, you want to have the convenience of banking there, convenience of education there, convenience of buying and selling your shares, making investment, convenience of interacting with anybody in any form. So therefore, as a delight objective of a bank, we recognize messengers, if you see, right on the top, second, as one of the areas which the digital technologies should help us to be with the customer where the customer is. So now you've got the customer, you've delighted the customer, so customer is happy working with you. What do you want to do? You want him to do more business with you. And to do more business, again, in a banking perspective, the objective is to offer a full suite of e-commerce. And e-commerce is not just buying, selling on Amazon, right? 90% of the commerce in the country is mobile phones on the online portals. But from a banking perspective or from an end consumer perspective, I think commerce goes beyond that. So you should be able to offer a full suite of commerce experience, whether it is taxes, whether it is shopping for education, whether it is dealing with the government, paying your property tax, not just direct tax. So include those kind of wide range in your objectives. So now you got the customer, you're delighted, you have commerce, you got the customer interacting with you, using more of your service, you're offering a full suite. So what do you have? You have a lot of data, right? So if you're not leveraging the data, it's not your objective to leverage data, guess what will happen? It will feed back into the delight. You will not be able to offer delight. And what are your objectives as a going concern? Generate more profitability, generate more revenues. So that's where the data comes, and using big data is just a term. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Analytics, advanced analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, rules, what have you. Zero moment of truth, first moment of truth. Irrespective of that, I think the key question is that can you identify patterns? I got a WhatsApp message this morning. The message said, food for thought, and it said, I don't trust promises. I said, okay. I was reading it. It says, I don't trust actions as well. What do you trust? It says, I trust patterns. And the data is what gives you patterns. And I think using those patterns, you can achieve some of your objectives of revenue, cost reduction, delight the customer more, and make the customer work with you more and more collaboratively. So everybody's happy. Now, you got the data, you analyzed, you found what you want to do, connected it with your objectives. I think this is one thing which either we do very bad, which is selling more, or we do very, excessive. We probably are a very strong process organization. We're a very strong product organization. We are very strong in distribution. We are very strong at scale. Just to give you an idea, I didn't talk about the bank. I'm sure most of you know. But we got 40 million customers, 2,500 towns and cities in the country, 4,800 branches, right? 4,800. And we do something like 10,000 TPS. I'm sure State Bank does maybe 4 to 5 times this volume, right? Now we do all of that very good. We got all kind of products. We got the best credit card in the industry. We got the best personal loan in the industry. So selling doesn't mean just bombard the customer with your offering. Selling means prudence. Selling means discipline. Selling means having a culture of sales. And from a digital objectives perspective, I think some of the things you can include in your selling process is, of course, first of all, friction reduction. So one click to buy. Selling also as an objective means including those products or objects in your selling suite which the customer wants to buy. If the customer wants to buy a Nike shoe, you can't be selling him an insurance product. And using the previous objective you have to arrive at, from a lifestyle perspective, from the moment of truth perspective, that what is the customer wanting to buy at this point in time? It's not an easy thing. There is no secret sauce. It's a lot of try and verify, try and verify. I use that for cybersecurity. I was talking to Commodore this morning. So look at the discipline in the sales culture and using digital technologies in your sales objective to make it a well-oiled machinery and not just a bombardment or blast off offers to your customer. And then comes, of course, technology. In my bank, we say 3 things. One, technology should be seen, not heard. Second, the tail should not wag the dog. I hope you get what I'm saying. And of course, the third thing we say a little bit more in English, which is we don't do anything for the sake of technology. But from your digital objectives of the organization perspective, if you're trying to achieve them without using technology, you can't be digital. And I'm drawing a difference between paperless and digital. As I said, if you can't produce new products, then you're not digital. I had a very interesting conversation with one of the ex-chief human resource officers of Tata Sons. And he shared a very, very challenging perspective with me yesterday. He says digital means two things. Okay, one, you have an existing process. So I have a personal loan as a process. I have an auto loan as a process. I have a click to EMI on a credit card loan as a process. So you can take a consumer durable loan, swipe your card, but you can convert that into EMI at the time of purchase or later at the time of statement, right? But he says one of the ways of digital is to reduce, take away from this process as many things as you can to make it more and more digital. Take away the paper, take away the verification, take away the authentication, make it seamless, frictionless, invisible, take away, the mistrust, take away a lot of things. That's one way of creating value by reducing, right? He says the other way is create absolutely a brand new product, create fresh value, a value which did not exist yesterday, right? So what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is a value somebody is trying to create which did not exist as an asset class previously. And what is it based on? It's based on the digital technology. Now, of course, we have issues there that there is no underneath asset as of now. But these are the two objectives, two sides of the coin when it comes to digital. So therefore, you got to leverage technology, and some of the technologies some of the ways to leverage technology is foolproof your architecture. And the rest of my presentation is around that. I think you can read the rest. I don't want to spend all the time on this, but this is one area I'm covering in detail in the subsequent slides. And then, of course, comes cloud. Okay. There are at least, I think, a couple of booths here selling cloud. Public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, a lot of technology colleagues here who have various definitions of cloud. Okay, I have mine too. That what I mean by cloud is that irrespective of where your data is sitting and your service is running from, is it able to leverage a cloud architecture? And the only definition which I connect with cloud is that it should be able to scale of the size of a cloud, which is infinite, right? So are your current applications, whether you're using an SAP HANA or I'm using a FlexCube core banking or some of you using a Finacle or some other core banking system, are they cloud scale? Are they cloud native? What is your objective around cloud? If scale is not your objective around cloud, then it doesn't matter whether you are in public cloud, private cloud, virtualization, and so on and so forth. So it should be part of your objectives to create the scale which means you can go to a cloud. Now, of course, if you're a boutique shop, don't bother yourself, right? It has to connect with the larger objectives of the organization. This should not be done for the scale of it. If zero capex is your objective, then of course public cloud is an answer for you. Okay? Okay, let's move on. But one thing which cloud gives you, which I did not talk about, is cloud scale, cloud architecture, cloud native, whatever term you want to use. Term again doesn't matter. One of the things it should give you as your objectives should be 24/7 availability, which means no matter what happens, whether a flash sale has been announced of a Xiaomi phone at Amazon or Flipkart this morning, and you have 2 minutes to buy one of the 200,000 phones they're going to sell. In that 2 minutes, the cloud should be able to give you 24/7 infinite scale on that. Okay? And none of this is relevant from a digital perspective in an organization around any of your objectives. None of this is relevant if you are not secure, if you don't have everybody on the board. You can't create a digital innovation group and expect to become a digital organization. It doesn't work. I guarantee you. It has to be all on board, all pervasive, right? And from a social media perspective, I think we talk a little bit more about this in my last slide. At least you got to be listening, because that's a dangerous word out there. Whether it's a dark word, whether it is under the dark chat rooms in social media, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's any of the digital giants, at least you should be listening to the opinion makers. Okay, because people have short attention span there, so you should need to respond very quickly. So include that in your objectives. So this is what my take on our digital objectives of an organization which aspire to become digital, not just paperless. Okay? And my answer is that, okay, APIs is one of the ways to do it, and here is some thought process on API. What's an API? You know, some of you are experts on this. Many of you probably have a definition which may not be fully correct. So again, my definition of APIs is nothing but a method of exchanging data. There's somebody who needs an access to a data, and there's somebody who has the data who has to provide. And the best way to get that data across in a scale manner is using a term or a technology or a platform or an architecture called API. This is another aspect. I think people use the term API very loosely. So I'm trying to mix a little bit of tutorial, bear with me. This is the way I am. API essentially means, it could actually mean even a platform. So the entire loan origination system of my bank is actually an API which I exposes to the entire fintech world. Of course, on a business agreement, which also we'll talk about. But there is something called a microservice. So basically a microservice which also is construed as an API by many of us. I draw a differentiation. If you want to send an OTP to a customer to authenticate as a second factor or as challenge response, and there is an application which just does that job well, then perhaps it's a microservice. So try and understand and differentiate between a microservice as an API and an API. Okay, now referring to a little bit of us. So when we went around and started this journey, you know, it was 2008, and some of my slides will talk about it. And today, it takes 10 years to get where we have got. So API banking or API journey is not an easy one. I have about 30 systems, roughly, give and take. It changes every day. So when the slide was last made, which was probably a month back, who produces various APIs, whether one as a microservice or multiple, like I said, a full loan origination system for retail lending. Some of the examples I've given there is core banking, CRM, and then I've put another small system there just to give you an example, Dedupe. So when a customer applies to us, whether in paper or on Bank Bazaar or in Google Link or on my website or on my mobile app called Loan Assist, or any platform, let's say a state bank's platform called Yono or Buddy, there are multiple applications coming. Now, how do you know the application is a bona fide? So a small little microservice of deduplicating those applications to check an application fraud also is very relevant, because you need to serve it in multiple places. So some of those are examples of APIs and microservices, producer systems. Then who consumes, right? There are tons of systems which consumes. So example, I have put clearing automation. Now you will be wondering, what will a clearing automation or a clearing system can consume as an API or a microservice in an organization or in a bank, and produce what? And achieve what objective of digital? So let me give you an idea. So we process probably, say, 500,000 checks every morning as inward clearing. I think between State Bank and us, we must be processing 60% of countries clearing. Certainly 36% of countries RTGS between two of us together. Okay? Now, in that, there is something very simple, saying check amount between words and figures. Check signatures. So you have machine learning API running to find patrons and match the signatures. So that's an API or a microservice. So there are multiple consumer systems. Not everything is a CX. Not everything is a UI, if you understand that terms. Digital certainly doesn't mean UI. Okay? I've written a lot about that in public forums. You can check some more views if you are interested. And then, the count changes. Today, after 10 years of journey, I have about 450 or 500 odd such APIs and microservice. Doesn't take. Rome was not built on a day. It takes a lot of time. And then, of course, there are partners. There's a term called public API, which I talk about towards the end of my slide. Okay? But then, let's say there are partners, there are associates, there are customers. Amazon, Asian Paints, Indian Oil, Government of India, e-marketplace, and then there are customers like Facebook, Google, WhatsApp. So there is variety of customers who use this. So how to go about doing this? So one of the ways I at least suggest that look at a platform approach. You just can't do APIs in a casual manner. You need to have a strong, robust, service-oriented architecture platform. People call it, IBM will sell you a WebSphere application server suite or a WebSphere application server MDM, SOA suite. So will Oracle will sell you. But essentially, you have to do more with that layer. Besides having your APIs published by your underneath provider systems. And what is more that you have to do? So if you look at the 4 blocks, rectangles I have put under the middleware term in rectangle, you have to have a strong auditing mechanism. Okay? You have to have some data persistency because end of the day, not everything is stateless. This layer should be able to help you when you're doing APIs. Of course, you need to have service orchestration. And then sometimes you need a lot of adapters. Okay? Especially coming to, let's say, blockchain. Let me give you an illustration of this, the importance of this layer. Everybody in this room must be thinking or doing something about blockchain. If not thinking and doing, reading, right? But you have legacy. So how to make existing applications blockchain enabled? This layer could be helpful to give you an adapter which you can plug in as an extension of your microservice or an API. And then, of course, if you're dealing with internal systems, they are in the blue. If you're dealing with external systems, then there's an additional layer, which in my view should have to come in this platform, in this architecture. And subsequent slides will talk about it. Okay. I gave you one example of a deduplication. Look at some of these things. They're very simple. When you log in into my net banking, please raise your hand who are my customers. Thank you for your business. Really, really grateful. So when you log into my bank, what do you get? Whether on mobile phone or using mobile browser or net banking. You get something called a financial summary. And what does that financial summary brings? It brings your CASA balance, brings your fixed deposit, brings your recurring deposit, brings your mutual funds, brings your demat holding, brings your loan. It also brings your credit card open to buy and last billing. Brings you pretty much 360 degree of everything you do with my bank, right? Now that's an API. Financial service is an API. And if I go back to the previous slide, about 40 of my back-end systems participate in creating that API. And the API is served by this middleware system. And I have at least 8 million hits of that API every day, at least. And sometimes I have no questions right now, later. Okay? Sometimes I have those hits at 40,000 per minute. I'm sure State Bank would be having it 40,000 sometimes per second because that's their scale. Okay? Then there are some other easier ones I've put as just must illustration of the 500 odd APIs I'm just referring to in our context. Okay, there's another aspect which I want to share with you, that when you are on this journey, you have your digital objectives, you have your organization objectives, you have your business objectives, you have your technology objectives of achieving those objectives. I would also like to encourage you to bundle them, to bucket them in themes, so that you have clarity and some homogeneity, so that you can build for a purpose and not for a reaction of knee-jerk. That's at least how we have gone about doing it. So we organized all our journey on borrow, on pay, on inquire, on fun. So pay, save, invest, borrow, and have fun. Right? And when you do it like that, then you can build a scale, build once. Otherwise, every time you have to offer a service for a particular channel or a business group or a product, you will be creating a new API. But if you have taken care of a loan origination API at a borrow level, saying no matter if the customer has to do a borrow of loan against property, or borrow of loan against gold jewelry, or borrow of an automobile, new or used car, or borrow of a personal loan, then you will have a comprehensive set of APIs in your design. So you can quickly achieve scale. Okay, this is a light. Always I feel this is out of turn slide. But I think I talked about API being a platform also. These are terms industry uses, and multiple technology guys will come and confuse the hell out of you. Okay, some of us are here. We are also part of that bandwagon, right? Sometimes we're on this side of the table, sometimes we're on the other side of the table. But I think there is very little difference between a platform and an API. Both of these terms are being used interchangeably, just like a microservice and an API. Okay? So we have something called a digital application platform. State Bank has a platform called YONO. Kotak has a platform called 811. All of them are APIs. Because when you're sourcing it from Google, you do a search, right? So you are exposing your platform API there into Google, into WhatsApp, into Amazon. So think about it. So we have an application platform called DApp, which further consumes hundreds of microservices and APIs within my data center. And I'm happy to share with you that about 99% of our origination in the branches is happening on this platform called Digital Application Platform. It took us 5 years to put it together. There are a lot of colleagues of industry are in the room. If they choose to share, they'll tell you. It takes time to put it together. It does take a lot of money also to put it together. Okay, especially if you are after scale. Okay, another term in the same context of digital objectives and APIs and microservice, fintech. Very sexy term. All of us are obsessed with this term, fintech. So HDFC Bank, for example, we are in a journey from fintech to techfin. So we were born fintech in the year 1994-95 because we did everything digital from day one. We did nothing on manual, nothing decentralized. But it has taken us 25 years from fintech. We're still not techfin because our business is banking. So fintech means the following. So I thought I'll try and share again my point of view. Yours could be different and you're entitled to it. And industries could be different. There are three type of fintechs. One, those who are only technology. And I've listed some names for you. They are publicly available fintech companies. You can buy them, use them, buy their services, consume their offering. All right? So those offer only technology for financial services. That's in your leftmost, right? Or, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, your leftmost. Then the second type of fintechs who actually use technology and offer financial services, not necessarily only financial services, but commerce, let's say. right? Storefront included in the forum, uh, in the commerce. So Amazon is one example. The largest fintech in my view, also the largest e-commerce player in the country, I think Amazon will catch up soon, is the Indian Railway Tourism Corporation, IRCTC, I've listed there, right? And then also Apple is a fintech. Now you can say Apple is a technology, it's a product company, Apple is a marketing company, right? Apple is an innovation company, but Apple has something called Atlas. You go to an Apple store, they use a lot of technology to deliver financial services because they're offering you consumer finance to buy an iPhone X right there on their doorstep, in their store. So it's also a fintech. The third type of fintechs are those who actually are what you and I connect more with. And I've listed them: Bank Bazaar, Policy Bazaar, Car Dekho, Wan Gyan, Apna Bazaar, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, lot of tutorial on fintech. Now with all of these APIs and microservices, oh, I have to stay here, I realize, and platforms and a little bit of thought process on what is a fintech, not everything can be achieved using just these 3, 4. People also make a gross mistake of saying, give me an API. So, but there is another term called SDK, called APK. So don't boil the ocean. If you have an SDK or an APK available, use it, because then you don't have to do UI and UX again. So we do this. We were the first in the country as a bank to offer a shopping experience around our cards to our customers called Smart Buy. And what we're trying to do is just integrate that Smart Buy APK and SDK into various of our properties. Some of this is already integrated in our PayZapp property, and you can use it. And you will see that coming in our mobile app and also our HSL trading app and so on and so forth. So there is an easier approach called SDK to offer delight to the customer. Not everything is API and microservice. Technology. Again, do not hesitate to boil the ocean and write tons of code in your lightweight, fast response application called mobile app. Okay? There are people innovating outside, the fintech collaboration. Go license or purchase or whatever, right to use. So we integrated this in our brand new mobile app. I'm sure some of you would have experienced. There's something called HDFC Bank New in the app stores since May of 2017. That's a beta app. We've not officially launched it, but it's been there for a year. Hopefully, before the end of this year, you'll see our current mobile app being demised and a brand new app coming. And that will bring a lot of stuff which I'm talking about and shared with you so far. Okay? This bug clipper, for example, is very simple. It just tells you real time what is the memory on the customer's phone, because he's calling your call center and telling my EVA chatbot that your app is crashing. But the damn app is crashing because it's not able to load the video API. And the customer wants to do a video call with me because he has no memory on his phone. So a lot of other things it can do. Okay, I talked about messengers, conversations. I think there may be friends from the digital giants world, the GAFA world here in the room. If they are there, welcome. But those who are non-digital giants, non-GAFA, I'm going to make a prophecy you may not like and agree with me. But if you do not protect your business, doesn't matter whether you are bank or commerce or a manufacturing company, right? Automobile manufacturing company, these chatbots, messengers will eat your lunch. So while you have to collaborate and work with them and offer banking inside your WhatsApp, which is on your phones, right? Or Facebook Messenger. We do HDFC Bank on chat with Facebook on Messenger. And we do, like, guess what? There are 800 people who pay their bill every day on HDFC Bank on chat inside Facebook Messenger. I can't lose them. They like it. They want to stay there. welcome, I'll be there. But you should have your own conversational banking or conversational Uber or conversational commerce, conversational insurance, whatever business you are in, property or offering. Otherwise, your customer will slowly go away from you. Now, how did we use all of this to achieve some of our digital objectives? So, and how did we create new products? So one of the products we created about 3 years back was something called 10-second loan. A lot of people on this planet Earth have still not been able to copy it. Even Moven and N-Bank still take more than 30 seconds to give this loan. I don't know what some of our Indian banks takes, but we believe they take longer than 10 seconds. Right? We actually take 4 seconds and 400 microseconds on an average I have measured. From the time you click, I want the loan. Right? This is the first product we created using digital technologies. Of course, we created Chiller before this, if you are familiar with CHILLR, and we created some more. But this was one big new product which brought revenues, the primary objective of profitability and revenues to the bank. In the first quarter, we did entire year's budget of personal loan. In 1 quarter, we did business for the entire year. Okay, a very simple process. We're not trying to boil the ocean. What are we trying to do? Basically, artificial intelligence and advanced analytics. No machine learning in this so far. Okay, there's no deep learning, no machine learning in this. But we are pre-cooking. What do we need to know? We need to know your propensity to buy, propensity to service the loan, and we need to anticipate the latent need which you may have at this point in time and try and make you offer in the moment of truth when you're on my property. We pre-cooked all of this for at least 30% of our 40 million customers. And then, what do we do? Even today, it's not a meager amount. We do 70,000 10-second loans a month. It's a lot of, relevant objective to meet using digital technology. Because my cost of digital 10-second loan is a fraction of any other method of me giving personal loan to my customers. Then we said, what next? All of you have a demat account with some bank, some broker, and you have a lot of your equity or your bonds sitting there. They're of course making money for you, right? They're earning you capital appreciation, or they're earning you tax-free interest on bonds, right? Or they're earning you capital risk, protection and a reasonable income. But we said how to unlock that value. So we created a real-time online overdraft for every customer of HDFC Bank having shares in HDFC Bank's demat account. In 4 clicks, you can try yourself right now on HDFC Bank property or in the evening or at home. In 4 clicks, you can create an overdraft of the amount you want, and then you don't have to use it. You can use it the day you want to by doing a fund transfer. You do it at 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm sorry, this may not be very clear. Okay? And we just launched it about 3 months back, November of, I think, 23rd or so. And it's still a pilot launch. We have not done a customer launch. We have not done a press launch. We have not done a media launch as yet. It's all word to mouth. We have seen 200% growth in the 3 months, from the first month volume to the third month volume. Right? Volumes are small as yet, but it will gain momentum. As I said, Rome was not built on a day. And then where do we go next? This is another area. A lot of us invest in HDFC Tops 200 or SBI Magnum or Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund or Reliance something, right? And those mutual funds, if you're an investor, are sitting with you. You have a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year horizon perspective on those, right? Now that money is also locked. It's making money for you for sure. Of course, subject to market risk, as they say. But you can use that money in the need of an hour and do an equivalent of Loan against securities. This is coming soon. We are currently testing the product in a closed user group, about 50,000 people. We are incorporating their feedback, and that's what another thing I want to share with you. That not everything works when you're ready with it, using these technologies. You got to test. Again, I'm going to repeat, whether it is cyber security, whether it is your product offering, whether it is your technology services, test, verify, test, verify. Go through that cycle for some time, and then the product becomes mature, the process becomes mature, the service becomes mature, and then you can scale it up. Okay, last section. Time is up, I know. I will rush through this, my apologies. But again, around APIs, I think there is a lot of terminology being used: public API, partner API, fintech API, right? In our country, just to give you perspective, and your guess is going to be as good as my guess, but I'm going to, in any case, share my point of view. There are only 2 public APIs in the Republic of India. One is Aadhaar, and second is, any guesses? UPI. Everything else in the entire country is a closed user group. GST is a closed user group by invitation, partner API. Okay? So when you are dealing with the term called public API, be very, 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 very careful. Okay, I'm sure you would have read the slide by now. We thought we were novice, immature. We thought we launched our first public API in this country as early as 15 years back. We called it EPI, External Payment Interface. We've rebranded it in the past few years. We now call it Direct Pay. Okay? About 200,000 of the merchants use this. But the more I think about it, it's nothing more than a closed user group partner API. And we do more than 500,000 transactions. This API is called more than 500,000 times a day. Okay, so public API is a long way to go. Okay, this is another example of a real-time partner API, that how money comes from a petrol pump, who's the last mile consumer, and you go to the telco, who then tells the distributor, and distributor then tells the dealer to ship the truck. From an Indian Oil example, we did something like this 5 years back. And the only reason I put this slide is, you don't need the platform which I showed you in one of the slides to make a beginning. We didn't have any of those when we launched this. This was in 2005, 12 years back. Okay? So don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for the entire foundation to be ready. Make a beginning. Gaadi ko garage se bahar nikalo. Right? Then only you will know the signal is right, green or red. You know this dialogue? You seen a movie called Life in a Metro? Watch that movie. Brilliant movie. Okay. Some of you asked me when I was having tea that how do you go about doing an open API banking or public API, and what are some of the pitfalls, and how do you secure? And I was also talking to our colleague from Navy, who gave you his perspective on cybersecurity and many other things yesterday evening. I think you should be very, very discerning and careful. Have some objectives. And one of the objectives, one of the prerequisites I strongly recommend, have a formal business agreement with the partner before you give an API. Otherwise, the partner will steal. They will steal your data. How will they steal the data? This is how they will steal the data. What is the data being stolen here? Or potential of being stolen? Customer statement. But I have a legitimate consent of the customer. We were talking about GDPR and India's own GDPR. Coming soon, if we are lucky, monsoon session, unlucky, winter session, still unlucky, the budget session next year or the election session. Okay? But I think it's very important. This is another term in the industry grossly being misused and casually used, especially by technology providers. They call it monetization of data. Mr. Microsoft calls it data is the new oil. Somebody calls it data is the new electricity, right? And everybody says, let's monetize the data. Whose data is it? Does any of the digital giants pay you for using your data for earning 80 to 95% of their advertisement revenues? They don't. Maybe they give you one big fat email box for free. And then they read content from that. So when it comes to monetizing the data, I strongly urge you as fellow CIOs to be very, very discerning and very, very, careful and paranoid about it. I think inclusive responsibility is the need of the hour. We should ask ourselves these questions. Who's the controller of the data? Who's the custodian of the data? Who's the owner of the data? For what can you consume it, use it, monetize it, and what is the right way? Okay, with that, I leave you with some thoughts that, okay, what has it generated for us? Last slide, 25 million such API calls which happen in my bank today. I'm sure in Mr. Mahapatra's bank, there will be multiple of this, maybe multiplied by 10, just because of the size and volume. But I think there are few of us who have been very, very reasonably happy going through this journey, and this has started to make a difference now in the country. So those who have not embarked on this journey, please do keep an open mind and consider something like this.
If you are not a bank customer, the account customer, means neither you have a current account or the saving account, you cannot access the whole summary.
You cannot, yes. Yeah,
So
there are some incentives of being my customer.
No, I agree. If you have a credit cards, loans, car loan, home loan, you should give a single console.
Well, because I don't have your saving CASA, FD, RD with me, the only way to give me you that console is to go to people like Yodlee, is to go to people like Intuit, right? And surface that when you log into my. I am not propagand of storing credentials even on the fly. I won't like you to give me your State Bank of India or ICICI Bank credentials, because I don't think I'm ready for that. Yodlee asks you, Intuit asks you, a lot of people are doing it. But I'll take that as a feedback. I'll think about it. If I can find a stronger protectionist way of doing it, I'll put it in my canvas and do something about it, for sure.
Thank you.
One more question, last one. Well, let's go across there. There is a hand going up there. I think the Fullerton colleague. No, yeah? Yash.
Hi, Munish. I'm a digital person. Any thoughts on mortgage-based lending? What could go digital? Because we've seen a lot of success at HDFC on the personal loan front, which is unsecured. But when it comes to financing the mortgage in terms of car or in terms of house, any thought from your or any ideation from your side?
I will not give you any thoughts. There's a lot of competition sitting here. But I agree with you. I think you have hit the nail right on the head. Only thing I can tell you is if I was doing home loans on my book as a HDFC bank, I would have revolutionized that. So by now. But we'll get you that answer. It's like Sachin Tendulkar. He says, let my bat talk. So wait for the bat to talk. We can't give you any ideas now. Your competition as well.
Nothing on the digitization side as well?
No, I can't answer that question. I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll take it offline with you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.